Hey y'all, here to talk about freedom fighters again. A lot of things unraveled last night and the day before. The theory continues. As soon as I thought I was over talking about this and maybe overplaying this, I did some more investigation, and this needs to be said because who would have thought 40 years ago, when the game was out, people were playing it, trying to submit scores to Odyssey Adventure magazine. Who would think that 40 years later, someone would be looking into it? So that's what it's all about. 40 years later, and you got me talking about it and bringing it up and doing a full investigation. So, I'll start by saying that the 451 that I put up last night with the screenshot, not the actual gameplay, I posted that on YouTube, and I posted it on the Facebook group, the Odyssey 2 Facebook group, and a fellow from Brazil who runs a website called experienceodyssey.com, where he has the top 10 scores for all the Odyssey games. He added me to the list, which put me in third place and here I was able to discover two more scores that I wasn't aware of. An 847 by a Hein Beck, which he did in November of 22. Then there's a 680 by Ruggiero del Vecchio, also done in November of 22. And then me in third place at 451, February of 23. And I surpassed in fourth place Eric Lima, which put up a 435 in November of 21. And then he gets followed by a 337 by Andre Hoffman in July of 83. And then a 323 by Mauricio Namba in July of 83. So that's the top 6 on that website, which puts me in third place with a screenshot for proof, not a full video. I don't know if the other scores were witnessed on video or just a screenshot, but whatever. Now, after further investigation, I did look into those magazines. The Odyssey Adventure magazine, there was 7 issues that started in the winter of 1982, and the issues ran till the summer of 83. Now, in those issues, they had high scores for various games for the Odyssey 2. Now, in one of the magazines, I did see where they did say to submit a screenshot, a photo, and send it in. So this would be confirmed by a photo. Now, to my demise, and I've been talking to some of the people on the Facebook group about these outrageous scores that were submitted to the magazine. You won't believe this, but here we're talking about getting 1K, and how I did my research and didn't find that anyone ever broke 1K, which is still true up to this part right here of the magazine. So in the magazine, a Richard Latu from Buena Vista, Colorado, submitted a score in issue, which is first appeared, first of all, the first score to ever be submitted in the magazine was in issue number 3. Issue number 3 of the Odyssey Adventure, which was the summer of 1982. The magazine submitted a score of 309, which is very believable. 309, which is in very comparison to the scores we've been looking at, which was done by a Jim Hartman from San Pablo, California. Okay, now in issue number 4, the following issue, there was no update on the Freedom Fighter score, but there was a little write-up on Jim Hartman, how it explains it was his favorite game, and how he put the time and effort to get to 309. In issue number 5, which was the winter of 1983, these scores were submitted. 3 scores higher than the 309. Now get this, people, follow me. That Richard guy that I just told you about submitted a score of 9,996. 9,996, which is mind-blowing compared to all the scores we've talked about and what I've been able to do lately. Then you have a Scott Lucas from Valparaiso, Indiana, submitted a score of 4,829. Now, these two scores are well over the 1K that supposedly no one has done, but according to the magazine, these two scores were submitted back in 1982. Okay, then the third one is a Kevin Lahr of Johnston, Pennsylvania, who had a realistic score of 905. So those are the 3 scores that were posted in issue number 5. In issue number 6, they dropped the 905 score and left just those first 2. So those were still the top 2 scores as of issue 6. And then in the last issue of Odyssey Adventure, which was the summer of '83, before the right before the crash, the video game crash, in issue number 7, in the final issue, they also dropped the 4,829 and went with just the top score of 9,996 by Richard, that stood for 3 issues. Okay, so that's it as far as what we have from the magazine. Now, I want to talk about those 2 scores. Now, we obviously don't have video footage of those. We also don't have screenshots of those, but the magazine confirmed at the time that they received screenshots. But with that said, those scores are not legit. And I proved this because and this is why this game, I'm glad that I've been keeping this theory going, because there is a big theory behind this game. Now, if y'all been watching my videos, you recall me saying that the game is a 2-player game where 2 players, each with their own joystick, play for 1 score against the computer. Now, if you were to play that way, which many didn't because they didn't have a second player, I fired it up today and I did my best trying to control both, but you can't legitimately control both controllers. But what I was able to find out in the investigation is that if you play with a second player, it's very possible to get those two scores, which I thought there was no way those two scores could be done. But in the two-player mode, I found out from my little experience that I experimented that I believe those can be done playing with two players. Now, with that said, if you play with two players, the magazine at the time would not know this and not want further proof. They would just throw the score in there. I believe almost 99.9%, 100% in my investigation that those two scores are not legit. Those are two-player scores. I will try to Facebook Richard Latchin and Scott Lucas. I haven't made that attempt yet, but if I was able to track these guys down just from knowing where they're from, or find them on Facebook somehow, I would love to have a conversation with them about this. But for now, I would say that those two scores are not legit. Those would be two-player scores for sure. The 905 by Kevin Lahr is believable that he did it single player. I mean, that could be two-player too, I don't know. But that is, according to all my investigations so far, the 905 is reasonable. And I would give that one a pass because it's believable and it's far. Now get this, guys. During this whole investigation, I was able to find that score of 863 on Twin Galaxies, which was submitted way back in 1983. So that is believable and confirmed by Walter Day on a VHS video. And then Steve Rasman, which I also found a video on, of 595, is the only video footage proven. So that is like the official high score. I would say right now, when I get to the conclusion of this, of what you have to do to prove your score, you have to do video footage, and that would be the 595 officially. And I'll explain that in a minute. So, and I'll also explain to you why those two scores, that 9,000 something score and that 4,000 from the magazine, are not legit. I'll explain why and what scores would be legitimate. So, from all my investigation, I would say the most official score on record with a video proven that it was played by one player, because that's what I'm getting to during my experience, checking it out again. If you play two players with two joysticks, you can see that on the video, because remember, if you guys been watching my videos, I explained how you're in the middle. So your ship is always in the middle. Whether you change directions, you're always in the middle. So the reason why I say even my 451, even though I know I did it legitimately, I would still say that that's not a legitimate score either in the time being, because it needs to be on video, and this is why. Because what the magazine wouldn't have known back then when Richard and Scott submitted those scores well over 1K is that if you play two players, you could do it and just take a screenshot, and that's what they used for proof, is a screenshot. Now, why you would need a video to prove this is because if you play two players and you do the video, you will be able to see on the video that, in fact, two players played. And the reason why is because your ship doesn't stay in the middle. What happens is, when you play two players, one guy uses the right joystick to hyperspace until you get a clear area, and then you stop. Then the other guy with the other controller, player the left side, moves around the screen until there's trouble. Then the second player could thrust to the next area. But with all this said, when you're playing two players, the ship does not stay in the middle. it moves around the screen as if you're playing single player until this player 2 thrusts to the next area. Then the other player starts moving around again. And this is the way you can break 1K easily, is by playing with 2 players. And that would be, you would be able to know that on video, because the ship would not stay in the middle. It won't stay in the middle. And that would be your proof of your score. That would be total proof, is if the video would show that you're playing either 2 players or 1 player. Absolutely, no doubt. So with all this investigation on freedom fighters, I can legitimately tell you that I believe, after all my investigating, that the top 8 of all time, that's believably, that's not, obviously not all on video, which now I would say any record that's put up now has to be video. It has to be on video. But with that said, the scores that have been submitted in the past that are believable and that I can almost 99.9% say are legit is the 905 that was submitted in the magazine by a Kevin Lahr from Johnston, Pennsylvania. Though we don't know for sure if he played 2 players, but it's believable at least that he played 1 player. So, in other words, back when the magazine was out, this Richard Latchman and the Scott Lucas figured a way. I don't know if they handed the second controller to their little brother, little sister, or a friend that played along, and that was their way of, like destroying the high score of 905 that Kevin Lahr put up and the 309 that Jim Hartman had originally put up. So guys, it's obvious. The 2 scores that seem legit from the magazine is the original 309 from Jim Hartman and the 905 by Kevin Lahr. Those are believable. Now, Richard and Scott figured, well, the magazine only wants a screenshot, right? So they can't prove what mode we play in. So Scott and Richard had a good friend, that would constantly come over and play the Odyssey with them, or a brother or sister, or a parent, and they had the other player play from one joystick and they played from the other joystick, which is totally a game in itself. So they would have the high score for that, for 2 player, I believe. Okay, so they were able to, submit these scores without the magazine realizing that there's different modes to prove, but by then the magazine was going to go out in a couple months, so in a couple seasons. So here's my top 8 that I've been able to investigate overall that I believe are legit scores. Is the 905 from the magazine, the 863 from Twin Galaxies, the 847 from the ExperienceOdyssey.com website that I was added to by Hayne Beck, 847, and then the 680 also from that website, Ruggiero Del Vecchio. Those are the 2 that are ahead of me. Then I would say the 595 that I was able to find on Twin Galaxies forum, and that was a video. So that is the one I believe is the high score officially, like with proof, not official proof of a video showing that they didn't play 2 players, 595. And then my 451, which I don't have full gameplay of. I started taping after I got it, but I know I did it. But still, like I said, it's not official now, because now I believe whoever submits a score has to have a video showing that they played it one player, and the proof is on the video, because you will in fact know if it's two people playing, because the ship won't stay in the middle. So if a video gets submitted where the ship stays in the middle and never leaves the middle, then it's legitimately a one-player score. And then a 435 from that website, and a 405, which was the previous YouTube high score video, which I guess is still the official record too over my 451, because this guy had full video footage of the 405. So right now, I'll end it with this. The highest YouTube video submitted showing gameplay throughout the game is 405. Okay? I put up a 451, but it wasn't a full video. Like Patrick DeRosa did the same thing. He shows a 267 on YouTube, but not playing throughout. He did it like me, started videotaping after he did it. So, I would leave you with that. The high score on YouTube with a submitted video of the full playout is 405. The overall video record online is 595 on the Twin Galaxy forum. So those are your two legitimate scores showing gameplay from start to finish, are those two. Now the highest official score on record that I can 99.9% verify, I think, in my opinion, is a real score, is the 905 from the magazine that was submitted in issue number 5. And that score was dropped in issue number 6 and 7. But in issue number 5 of the Odyssey Adventure magazine, that 905 is the overall record. And like I said, the Twin Galaxy record of 863, that was clarified and accepted by Walter Day. So you see what I'm saying here, guys? All the scores we're talking about relate, right? 905 to 405. Those are the top 8 scores that I can 99.9%, in my opinion, say that they're legit, including my 451, which would be 6th all time. And these are from various websites. We got the Experience Odyssey website, we got the High Score website, we got the Twin Galaxies website, and we have the YouTube as a website. So those are 4 websites that I was able to gather these scores from. And then, of course, the magazine, the only score I can 100% verify in that magazine is the 905 and the 309. Those are the 2 scores that were submitted from the magazine that I could legitimately say are 100% probably real. Most likely real is the 905 and the 309. The 9,996 and the 4,829, in my humble opinion, 100% are not official scores. Those were 2-player games. This is obvious because of the difference in scores. I mean, here we're going from 905 and 863 and 847. Those are the top 3 scores that I believe are legitimate. 905, 863, and 847. Take those 3 scores and compare them to those 2. 4,829, 9,996. You got a huge gap there. And that tells me that those 2 scores submitted in the magazine with a screenshot were two-player games, and in the screenshot you will not be able to know that two people played that. But on video, with video footage, you would be able to know that they played two players. So with that said, if y'all want to do this, you can do it on emulation. Fine, even though you're using a different controller. So again, it would be an asterisk on it. But if you can at least do video footage of you playing it on an emulator, then at least we'll know that it was on an emulator, but that we could keep that as a separate score because you're using a different joystick. You're not using the official Odyssey joystick. Because someone mentioned that in the comments that they're going to try to do it on the emulation, but they believe they might have an advantage using a gamepad. So with that said, if y'all want to go for this record on YouTube, make sure you take a video of you playing it, because that will 100% verify that you're playing it one player and not two player. And that's it. That's what I've been able to figure out. This is, I'll back this up, 99.9%. And just to give you a shot of this latest investigation sheet, y'all can freeze that and look at it and see what I came up with there. And that was the page we talked about the other day with the YouTube scores and the Twin Galaxy scores. And between these two sheets of paper, I've been able to come to the conclusion that 905 set by Kevin Lahr of Johnston, Pennsylvania, back in the winter of 1983. So we're talking 40 years ago, exactly 40 years ago to the day. That's the official score of 905. That's believable. So with that said, we don't have video of it. So the latest official score with video, like I said, would be the 595. So take it as you may. 905 without video footage, I guess with a screenshot, and 595 with video footage. And the 863 was, in fact, verified as video footage from a VHS by Walter Day. So if you don't want to count the 905 from the magazine, then I guess go with the 863. The 847 from the ExperienceOdyssey.com, I'm not sure if they have a video of that or just a screenshot, or it was witnessed by the website admin. But either way, there's your continuing story of the Freedom Fighters Odyssey 2 game. And this had to be said because we're 40 years to the day. And the game is controversial in the fact that it has the different modes of playing it. So there you have it. So when you play that game two players, there's two ways of playing it, with the firing and with the attack mode without the firing. Both ways, if you play two players on video, you will be able to know that you're playing it two players because the ship will not stay in the middle. Again, you can play it one player two different ways, with the attack mode where you can't fire, and the firing mode where you just stay on one screen. And now if you were to play that one, the fire mode on one screen, the ship won't stay in the middle because you'll move around the screen. But that's still legitimate as its own record, because you can still prove that it's not being played by two players, because you can't thrust off the screen. If you play with two players, you're going to thrust off the screen. If you play it the thrusting way, attack mode without firing, one player, you will be able to tell, because your ship will stay in the middle the entire time. Whether you change direction or not, the ship will stay in the middle. If you play it two player that way, the ship will not stay in the middle, and that's the proof that it's being played by 2 players. So that's it. I hope this clarifies for the diehards out there from the groups, the story of the freedom fighters, scoring system, and I'll leave you with this. There's yet to be a believable official 1K. No one's done it, in my opinion. No one's done it in single player mode. Still, there's no in mankind. There is no human being that can prove that they played it 1-player mode. Either way, firing or attack mode. Either way, I'll give you that. No one's gotten 1K. So that's still the goal. 905, still number 1. 905, no 1K. Show me a 1K. Thanks. Later, y'all.